Hey YouTube, this is Bidhead85. Can we talk for a minute? Okay, now, my I have been looking at a lot since the 2010 elections, November 2010, when Republicans swept the legislatures. And let me tell you something, I know for fact voter suppression will backfire. Just you wait. So remember the North Carolina law, the VIVA law they call it, is now making waves in a state that saw Governor Pat McCrory win last year when Obama was reelected. This was a chance for the tea leaves to start showing some promising signs of rubber stamping. Voter suppression has been a key prong in the GOP since 2011 when they started winning states that were very purple, like Wisconsin, with a fully red with the legislature and the governorship. Minnesota, with the Democratic governor, had both chambers of Republicans. Maine had a split legislature and a Republican governorship. New Hampshire had a veto-proof majority in the state legislature with a Democratic governor. And in 2012, when we were celebrating over Obama's reelection, something that the GOP had fought so hard to stop, Art Pope was seeing the fruits of his labor pay off when Pat McCrory, who was actually routed 4 years ago by Governor Beverly Perdue, no relation, I think, was elected as governor. Also, let me also state that an interesting little effect of the New Hampshire 2012 election is that women, the New Hampshire delegation, I believe, is all women, which is interesting. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's New Hampshire. They got to work. Now, the Republicans in North Carolina got to work on an abortion bill that they put into a motorcycle safety bill, tort reform. Basically, they were putting all that blueprints of ALEC model legislation, something I'm sure that Art Pope probably has his membership card in his wallet, including voter ID. They put that model legislation together, including voter ID. Now, I believe that the governor can pick the state board of elections from how it sounded. I could be wrong, but all 100 county boards of elections are in the hands of the Republicans. I watched the Rachel Maddow report that just blew me away one day, and they highlighted a young man in a college town where Elizabeth City State University is being located. He was told first that he could not run for Elizabeth City Council. It was reversed as more and more stories shining this light on this man who was also, it was reversed as more and more stories were shining a light on a man, a white man actually, and this will play into it eventually, who challenged Montravius King's ability to run and vote. Now, the thing was, he lived on campus, Elizabeth City campus, State University campus, which is a predominantly black North Carolina college. Now, the VIVA law changed objections from anyone in the county to anyone in the state. So it was also noted, I'll also note that that was done from North Carolina, and they actually did, and Rachel Maddow did an interview with Montravius King. So, that same guy who objected to Montravius King's running did not object to anybody in the predominantly white college in the next town over. Also, Boone County Board of Elections voted to take the polls off campus and condense them, get rid of 2 of 3 polls and condense them all into one and put them in a nightclub or something like that somewhere across town in order to make it harder on voters. This pissed off liberals and Republicans alike who aren't happy with the direction of their state. A Democratic sweep in mayoral races and city council seats across the state happened. The article is I put that article here, and I'm also going to put a link in the About section. Now, it uses Boone County as a focal point, but I'm sure that due to Tea Party influence, we've probably seen some other backlash pushing liberals and progressives into localities nationwide, including Montravius King pictured here. Not only did this backfire in a big way, but I have no doubt that he will energize many people to take the franchise much more seriously since it is now jeopardized. When we saw people on election day stand in mostly Democratic strongholds waiting 6 hours to vote, including a 106-year-old woman, we had to ask ourselves, what are they trying to stop? Well, for example, what happened in Virginia with the lieutenant governor, the governor, and the attorney general sweep in Virginia, where Democrats, all 3 of them won that. But also, What are they trying to stop? New York City. These are 15 under the radar victories that happened on Election Day in 2013. New York City didn't only see Bill de Blasio win on a platform of reducing inequality and halting the stop and frisk law, but he will govern with a more progressive city council. 21 new members of the 51-seat body are expected to double the city council's progressive caucus after aggressive campaigning by labor groups and the Working Families Party. CTAC, an aggressive campaign by business interests, was not enough to defeat a $15 an hour minimum living wage ordinance for transportation workers at Seattle's airport and residents of the surrounding community. Whatcom County, Washington. Environmental movement. It's a victory for the environmental movement. Progressive seems to have swept Whatcom County Council elections in a race that was widely seen as a referendum on a proposed new coal terminal. Tacoma Park, Maryland. It wasn't an election victory per se, but it's always good to see the franchise expanded. And yesterday, 16-year-olds voted for the first time in the city's local elections. In Colorado, 3 of 4 Colorado cities with anti-fracking ordinances on the ballot passed them. Centennial state voters also ruled in favor of 2 taxes on marijuana, strengthening the measure enacted last year. In Boulder, Colorado, residents of the Colorado town voted to buy out energy giant Xcel Corporation and implement a long-term energy plan that relies heavily on renewables. In Bridgeport, Connecticut, the state's Working Family Party drubbed corporate reforms in the city's hotly contested school board elections. Other mayoral races, such as the ones in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is Pat McCrory's former mayoralship, and Dayton, Ohio. Houston, Texas also reelected its first out lesbian mayor. Phoenix City Council, they will have the first ever progressive majority on their city council should the unofficial results hold up. In Coralville, Iowa, the Koch brothers tried to buy the election. It failed for them heavily. Royal Oak upheld a LGBT discrimination suit discrimination law that was put on the ballot by conservative activists. In Missoula, Montana, 6 of the city's 12 council seats were up for grabs, and liberals swept them, thanks in part due to efforts of the new party, which is a precursor of the Working Families Party. This is what they are fighting to stop. The nonviolent transfer of power is going to liberals and progressive, and the loss of power from the people's will that go both ways. That is what they need to do to make sure it doesn't happen again, is voter ID. Also in the Virginia Attorney General race, the State Board of Elections, or Republicans majority, had a rule change that if you voted with a provisional ballot, lawyers could not argue for you unless you were there. I have never heard of something like that. The lawyers always argue it without the voters there. And if they, personally, that backfired as well, as I believe many people, the Virginia, the Fairfax County Democrats called everybody, all the Democrats that were registered to vote, and say, if you voted, you need to show up and make your appeal on why you need to go and have your vote counted. So, voter suppression will backfire. It is only a matter of time. But, in the meantime, go vote. Thanks for letting me talk to you, YouTube.